I am 32 years old. Somewhere in the last 18 years of my life, I managed to rid myself of a major mental partition. I'm not sure exactly how it happened, or exactly when. I just realized one day that it had. Before that, I recognized the common patterns of bigotry in both white supremacism and homophobia. Yet, I held the two to different standards, and at first I didn't realize the problem with this. Indeed, I didn't realize I was doing this at the time. I heard the arguments for and against homosexual rights, and knew exactly where I stood on that. Yet, I found humor that vilified homosexuals amusing. More recently, as I recall it was during the '04 general election, I found myself debating same-sex marriage with a friend who, in an attempt to argue against it, alleged that homosexuals tended to be less commitment-prone, as she and I both knew. Suspecting, correctly it turned out, that I understood her well enough to infer the basis for this conclusion, I pointed out that this basis was the behavior of a single mutual acquaintance who was known to frequently change partners. So essentially, I explained, she was saying that if a certain group of people has a few in its ranks who tend to favor more short-term relationships, no one in that group should be allowed to marry. What groups, I asked, does that leave? At that, she conceded that I had a good point. Somewhere along the line, I was presented with the argument that homosexuality is, quote, disgusting, unquote. My response to this was, and still is, to point out that this is a matter of opinion. When you say, that's disgusting, all you're really saying is that it disgusts you. This is an entirely subjective measure. There are people in the world who call it disgusting when they see someone eating beef. There are people who call it disgusting when they see a teenage boy and girl walking down the street holding hands. There are people who call it disgusting when they see someone wearing pink after Labor Day. You're going to have to do better than that. I've also been given the argument that, if we are going to respect the sexual preferences of homosexuals, we might as well also respect those of rapists and pedophiles. One problem with this is that rape and pedophilia are each crimes because they entail non-consensual sexual contact. With rape, the sexual contact is with someone who hasn't given his or her consent, and with pedophilia, it's with someone not old enough to give consent. Rape and pedophilia are each acts, while homosexuality is a state. Can it be stated with accuracy that homosexuals are sometimes known to commit rape and pedophilia? Why, with all the accuracy that such a statement may be made about heterosexuals. Is homosexuality compatible with rape and pedophilia? Why, as compatible as heterosexuality is. So basically, you're making the insistence that your male homosexual neighbor can't be trusted with your son as much as your male heterosexual neighbor can be trusted with your daughter, and you're trying to use this assumption as its own basis. Classic circular reasoning. And by the way, pedophilia has nothing whatsoever to do with sexual orientation. The pedophile doesn't care about the gender of his or her victim. I remember in junior high, I was asked to consider a hypothetical situation. Picture yourself, the fellow said, sitting in a restaurant. You see two men kissing at the next table. How are you going to handle your food? How is this different from the "that's disgusting" argument? Even if the opinion in question is, in fact, shared, this does not establish it as a fact. Somewhere along the line, I encountered the claim that the parts don't fit. Well, if that's the case, then homosexual contact is not possible, which means that it's not going to happen. This means that you're going to have same-sex couples trying it and saying, this isn't working. What do you want to do? I don't know, want to go bowling? Okay, sure. If the parts don't fit, it means that homosexual contact is not possible, which means it's not going to happen. So what are you worried about? I've also been presented with the allegation that homosexuals think they're better than everyone else. If I believed that for a second, it would be the very paragon of irrelevance, given that the very same allegation can be made of Mormons and evangelicals. Don't you dare try denying it, we both know it's true. Recently I was given the argument that, well, the Constitution doesn't say anything about homosexuals. All I can do here is to point out that it also doesn't say anything about heterosexuals. So what? A couple years ago, when I asked a girl out, she said that we could hang out, but it wouldn't be appropriate to date. Of course, I was puzzled by this response and asked why not. She was very hesitant about replying, but finally just let it out that she was gay. I regret her hesitation, but I understand it. My appearance lends itself to some misunderstanding. People see my hair and think ultra-arch conservative. Here's someone who never has less than 4 semi-automatic weapons hidden away in his person just in case the black helicopters show up. Yeah, because you see, you people never believe me about the black helicopters, but they're out there. And one day they're going to show up, and when that happens, I'm going to be ready. And you're all going to come running to me, and you'll all be so glad I'm ready and so sorry you ever doubted me." But no, when she said that, I said, "Oh, well, shit. So in other words, I'm not your type." She laughed, her relief almost tangible, and said, yeah, literally." A while ago, indeed quite a while ago, I made a video exploring some of my views about homosexuality. Views which haven't changed. Do we have good reason to conclude that sexual orientation is not a matter of choice? Yes. But what if hypothetically that wasn't the case? Hypothetically speaking, if sexual orientation is governed by factors beyond one's control, that makes it akin to other characteristics so governed. Characteristics like ethnic group, gender, and place of birth. We can all see how holding someone to a reduced social or political status on any of these bases amounts to discrimination. If, on the other hand, we had good reason to believe that sexual orientation is governed by factors within one's control, this would make it akin to political affiliation, religious affiliation, and occupation. Surely, we can all see how holding someone to a reduced social or political status on any of these bases also amounts to discrimination. So if a certain characteristic is a matter of choice, does this, in and of itself, make it a crime to make that choice a certain way? The homophobic position cannot be defended with reason because it is not compatible with reason. Its acceptance depends on persuading others to abandon reason instead. The day all homophobes in the world embrace reason will be the day they stop being homophobes. So when I hear in the news about homosexual teens being bullied into committing suicide, I am saddened, and also a little ashamed. It's difficult for many to accept that someone could be different in such a fundamental way, and still be human. I have struggled with this realization myself. Indeed, much to my regret, though to a negligible degree, I struggle with it still. I worry sometimes that I will never be done with this struggle. But be that as it may, I will make it. If I must make this struggle to one extent or another for the rest of my life, then so be it. If I must simultaneously struggle against others as I struggle against myself, if that is how it must be, then that is how it will be. I wish I could say with complete certainty that it will get better, but I don't know. I can't know. None of us can. The future is never guaranteed, never certain. But I know this much. I and others will work, will push, to make it better. As I say, I cannot know for certain if things will get better, but I know that if you give up now, if you check out now, they definitely won't. Not for you anyway.